Howdy folks, it's Generalkidd here. How's everyone doing today? So for today's video, we are finally back with another comparison video, and we'll be comparing another AI for today. More specifically, we'll be tackling a very underappreciated and often very overlooked AI, which is civilians. So civilians they haven't been in too many Halo games. They've only actually been in 4 Halo games, which only 3 of them we can compare today. And by Halo games, I mean the main Halo games. I know like Halo Wars has had civilians, but we're only really talking about the main ones. So they only appear in Halos 3, Reach, and 4, at least for the ones we can compare. They also appear in Halo 5. I can't really compare them for this video for the same reason as always, because I can't. There's no mod tools available that I can use to access the stats for these civilians or AIs in Halo 5, but I will briefly discuss them later. Not in depth, but I'll definitely mention them, and you'll see why later. But for today's video, we'll be comparing the civilians in Halos 3, Reach, and 4. And we will be starting with Halo 3's civilians, of course, since that's the first Halo game where civilians make an appearance. So let's take a look at their stats. So Halo 3's civilians, they have 100 points of health. Their health recharges in 2 seconds, but with a 4-second delay before it starts recharging. However, they only recharge at a fraction of 25% of the health. But these civilians can do melees when they use weapons, and more specifically, they can do 35 points of melee damage. Which, of course, like I said, they can use weapons, and they can actually use quite a few weapons too, including Covenant weapons and most UNSC weapons. There's even a glitch to get them to hold like even larger Covenant weapons like gravity hammers and energy swords, but we won't count that. But anyways, the next Halo game to feature civilians is Halo Reach. Now these civilians, they're a lot more detailed than Halo 3 civilians. A lot more variety too. Halo 3 civilians was basically the dock workers, but in Halo Reach, they're more civilian-like, more urban, I guess you could say. But these civilians are completely useless as far as the game goes. But let's go into their stats first before I tell you why. So they're pretty much identical to Halo 3's civilians as far as their vital stats go. 100 health, same recharge time for the health, same recharge fraction. However, they can't do any melee damage, and that's also because they don't seem to be able to hold weapons either. I haven't actually tested that yet. But as far as like gameplay goes, you never see civilians hold weapons in Halo Reach's gameplay. So they're completely useless. All they do is just run around and pretty much do nothing. They'll never help you fight. But in Halo 4 civilians, they're actually all scientists this time around. There's no like regular civilians. Kind of like how Halo 3 only had dock workers for civilians. But for Halo 4's civilian scientists, they actually can use weapons again this time around, and they're actually pretty decent with them. And just like Halo 3's dock workers, these Halo 4 scientists, they can use quite a few weapons as well. Seems like they can use most Covenant weapons, in fact. As for their stats, though, they also have... the stats are also the same as far as vital stats go. Same health recharge time, same health recharge fraction. Now, while Halo 4's civilians can use weapons, and use them quite well actually, and use many varieties, it seems they don't have any melee attacks with these weapons. So they, even if an enemy gets close to them, they can't melee at all. So which Halo game has the best Marines, or best civilians? Well, it's close between Halo 4 and 3. Halo 4's civilians, they are actually kind of aggressive, and as you just saw there, even like the scientist guy, they can, not only are they pretty good weapons, but they can push ahead too. Like this scientist here, he pretty much charged that Jacko up the stairs and followed him. But unfortunately, Halo 4's civilians don't have melee attacks, and I'm pretty sure civilians, for the most part, except for Halo Reach, they pretty much share the same AIs as Marines, which is why civilians can hold pretty much the same weapons as Marines, as far as I can tell. And in Halo 3, they fight side by side Marines in pretty much the same formation and same tactics. So, and I assume Halo 4 is the same too. I haven't really noticed like much difference in combat style between the scientists and the Marines in Halo 4. So basically, it comes back down to which Halo game has strongest Marines, which I declared Halo 4 did because of their crazy high melee damage. But Halo 4's civilians don't have any melee damage at all. So with that in mind, I would have to declare Halo 3's civilians as the strongest. Halo 4's civilians may be more aggressive, seemingly. That's just an observation, though. I don't really have like any actual like objective stats to prove that Halo 4's civilians are more aggressive when in combat. So I don't really want to count that as like any stat to compare. But Halo 3's civilians, with glitches, they can technically hold even more weapons than Halo 4's civilians. But the only difference really between them and Halo 4's civilians is that they can melee. They have both regular melees and obstacle smash melees. But it's all the same as the Marines, really. They use the same melee damage as Marines and everything. But their 35 points of melee damage is pretty much all they need for the advantage over Halo 4's Marines, because everything else about them is the same, except for melee damage. And Halo Reach's civilians are all just useless. They may have the same vital stats, but they don't use weapons at all, they can't fight, they just run around. They don't engage enemy at all. So that is why I would have to declare Halo 3's civilians as the strongest of the series. Now, I did mention that I would talk about Halo 5 civilians very briefly, and the reason I wanted to bring that up is that technically in Halo 5, their civilians are completely invincible. They can't die no matter what. If you try to betray them, no matter how much damage you inflict upon them, while the game may say you killed a civilian and automatically kill everybody in your squad, they still stay standing. They don't flinch, they don't move at all. So technically, as far as strongest goes, they're non-combatants, but technically Halo 5 civilians are strongest because they're unkillable. But they just don't engage in combat at all. Actually, they don't even move at all for the most part. But that doesn't really count though, for obvious reasons. So we're just gonna stick with Halo 3 civilians as the strongest. But yeah, so there you guys have it. Halo 3 wins this time around. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and found it to be interesting. And if you did, make sure to leave a like. And if there's anything else for me to compare next, just let me know in the comments. Be it AIs or weapons. We'll be getting to weapon comparisons soon, so do stay tuned for that. And of course, make sure to subscribe so that you can get notified of that when it comes out. But yeah, other than that, I will see you all next time. Bye, guys.